Okay, now I'm going to introduce Logan, and it's hard to introduce a person that just means so much the way Logan means to me. It's hard to encapsulate how proud I am of him and how important I think this book is without just sounding like really biased because I am his wife. But even if I were just some rando, the feeling I get every time I read any of these poems, but especially in succession, it's the type of work that rewards you for coming back to it and spending time with it. And I find new treasures every time. And I think that really speaks to the person behind it. So I thought I would do a typical move and introduce him with his own words. So this is a poem from the book that he's not reading tonight. I checked, I didn't want a spoiler alert. But I think it does a good job of saying what we're all in store for. So, there are more books than can be read, but not more than can be bought. Is this the way that capital slays? No, I think it's Word's grand armor. Presenting Word's grand armor, Logan.
I really sprung that introduction on her, but of course she pulled it off. And thank you, friends, family, for being here. It's really wonderful to look out and see literally every face that in the crowd that I know, and it's a great feeling to bring this book into speech. First poem that I want to read, I almost memorized it, but I was like in the shower today trying to recite it in my head, and I almost had it, but it's just, you'll see. If you aren't that familiar with my poetry so far, you'll see that that's not the type of poems these are. But this one, I very nearly did memorize for all of you, and it's called Latent with Our Pleasantry. I feed the crocodile's bark. Sure as destiny is porous, the need for pureness lists toward the cliff under grievance. A grove citrus leaves won't prune. Utopia could settle over any place. An idea is so called for its lag, tugging at the roiling airiness of speech. I lean with a fat piece of lemon bark over the fence. Grace could settle over any place. This next poem is one that I don't have introductions for all of them, or even many of them, but only after this book came out, Caroline said, oh, that's a poem that has to do with the awful Scandinavian massacre and the memorial. And I said, does it? I don't know. It's called Memory Wound, and that's the name of the memorial. And I'll say that a lot of the poems in here, I find that it's sort of bits of language that sort of come to me, and a poem comes from them, and it's sometimes can be a little jarring after the fact to realize that it has these parallels within it. So, Memory Wound. That's the gap that the past has pulled blood through. That's filial, the prince's joke splayed in the harp's croon. Being glossy from a hung bit's haltered for youth. In Nusay, the plaster got wet again. Good look, say the dead, let the debtors in. Please, knives, wit, and purses that I worsened, as what Kant's hymns missed. They left in stitches, stitches. Where to equip the stitches? I get it. Warsaw, I saw an image of time. War's what I saw. Under whose flag can I limping slip this memo? I get it. Your hustle don't ever go unnoticed, baby. I'm with you, I'm with it. The grand credit ledger takes water, says thank you, resumes its conversation. Think piece workshopping, cryptocurrency and the figures of the 20th century comedy director. It's a working title. It is in debate whether to swap father in, the utility of it. It is a teachable generational moment. It is decided. It is parched. It's these meds. It looks beyond the window and the many passing windows beyond it. It's a time-bound pose it holds. The composing ledger unfolds. Beauty's foot incurs synchronicity and the nuisance of blather, arty pillows arranged tall by the broker, coffees, just coffees set out and around. It's so gauche, only cousins will come. It's how it wants it. I cast off the cloud I broke in twain. Out its memory's ethos a datum tumbles. It's encrypted. This, among others, is a benefit of slaying. Wet through billows where once forestry built life's facets, the pragmatist dune buggy hurdles. Its driver is buoyant. She sputters at towers districts fell about, considers the net credit civilians led on, the glass fondant so gleamy, so ultimately a public works, the whole project of debt. How to have slain what one's slain is another benefit of slaying. The ridges on beauty's foot accidentally enfold the dead clouds. Within there are gardens. To till them is how data is found. In the list of public goods is the prince's joke and his Kant's paltry sewing and is the pedant's tire swing. Is the nuptial's trick knee and death's gay think piece and is the loyalist id and is Galileo's wet red bow. The way out of a memory wound is to wound you. It's the absence of lack I push data through, color to. Haynes' litany's form is a feedback loop which hoops your plangents, a bust of hastening, and which leaps against doing, the seawall of it. Being heaps beside it. There are a few still loose piles where the data log bodies drift. Stage glass. Preserve the painting under dirt, sure. I'd keep a foot slung over the fence, I were you. Yours are sources, riffs where, an opalescent film. Time so loves its lacquer. If one is to confab weather, surface will do. Plus, what's not weather? Bend in closer. Loose the atoms slough over a departure. A river is only to make time livid. In imminent speak. Ruin fixed permanent in me, care for its public's take dismissed. Plastic is the ocean, and from a higher tuft its flakes sift through to compile by rational degrees. The city leaks. About the seal's foundations, knowing's peak. Gentlemen get addressed and tanned by credit's hearth. I'm tasked to haul logs in. Then there's this task force that was formed to garner loss and file it, and forget where the file went. I forge them in my free time. I accumulate in cubic grains, then sift, sort, and allot by use of shift plus left parenthesis plus the insert. Then I use it all in thinking up new formats to foresee the data pile in. Public, I would say, is misnomer. Faces don't align as such, except where waste is figured in. Encouraged at factorials, one had planned, so could plot out, and then so did. I lapsed in Anisha's absence, yellowing its curl to fillet age, becoming then, not young, but tenuous, to better straddle values cusp, and lap at what has come to replicate its place among the systems it designed to later make itself within. The city seeks its replica, the neotenous, its model Swiftian for fun, and how it propagates, or not quite that, but well, because its lean concept of fun is pain augmented for the peak of purpose, levitated high as need, and near as crystalline and reflex, I am tasked to proof it in. Dubai sent us its yeast and now alleges something untoward led to that. It may be true. Florid gestures now abound, where Turing's coins before spelt purity, within the error folded into ethoses now empty set, where the stock fondant of the ocean rends the larger will of calculus, milled pure, yet from its purer grit, no values marbled, all this wasted mire firm. So this one comes from a YouTube. You can look it up. There's some Furbies in a row. There's 3 of them. And they sing a song, the 2 on the ends. The middle one, the center Furby, he doesn't sing at all. He's very rude at the end. So this one is called Center Furby. It's actually the centerpiece poem in the book, which I truly did not do on purpose. It just ended up that way, and it was a very nice surprise when I saw Center Furby at the middle of this book. So, Center Furby. Figures adore tally. Nevertheless, I pile approximation near. I cast allegory as my turf. Then I talk glut rosily. As I count them 1 to 3, the middle is rude at the extremes who sing. The pleas of doing peril is limper before memory. 2 gestures can loose an empire into dark matter's firmament of numeral. I peer toward where fissure's firmness is its will. Core and value, loud for hire, pouring files for likes at all are viable if the problem is permeability. The cure is bent by recent fur. I eat a block of cheese before an algorithm. Now, so that was a Furby poem. This poem, I guess, is the Minion poem. Jenny, you remember your Minion balloon you had a few years ago at your birthday? All right. Well. Good. Accrue use, then hoard hard labor. In Chanticleer's cellar, I'll fit to pair disgust its nostalgias. What guff to allow the meager in? Into the capitalist body we do go, lavish with our fetishes. A thing so flush with capital is endlessly calculable, and as such knows infinite its unquantifiability. The sun-weathered minion balloon still fat. Foam is purple, mead is flat. When I ask for your hand, I really mean it. And I guess I'm in the series, like, there's some figures. I feel like my personal Mount Rushmore is of these very, like, Grimace, great character that I put on there. You have things like manatees as a real creature that would also slot into that. And this, I guess, these set of poems kind of in the middle to latter part of what I'm going to read have those figures. And for like almost the last decade, I keep finding owls figuring in, and they're usually owls that are bizarre in some way or another. So there's some adjective giving us some clarity on the owl. And so this is the most recent. I think this is the only one of that type that made its way into the book. This poem's called Cloak. Waft final, bleak from sculpting a model. I add up all the nuance around me. In total, it so amounts to the winks a flaccid owl doles out. I love it. It is great. Soon hair let down will feed the certain fire. Boring notes burn all the nicer the boringer. So he got oily, slathered with lore he'd hewn, for tires love fire, near completely. Inside a left sandwich bag, having smeared goodly my hands to get rid of it, your answers in sequence await, but they're lonely, by burning made lonelier. An alley in the city is perpetually aflame. I know it's lame saying so. Acceptance can't clip terror free from the banality that's binding it. I'm told that is the whole point of terror, which we want. Now, listen, you can't touch the car door here or there. Here's okay, here's better. Your experience is pleasure creeping nearer when your back is turned. I'm only here to help. Flowers gouge out my eyes because I let them. I can't decide if I let them because I want them to, or want merely to accept it. If one were to construct a scale model of scope, it would need to be larger for sure. The type of tower you're into is bleak. You're in it, gazing so, glancing about, regarding, down like so. I look up there, where you are at, peering up, grinning, up, searching. Comedy fondle. Halp abounds. Foul takes continue taking the water, which is enjoyable unto themselves. Profit then results. Don't let on that what lives goads distinct ones into being. There isn't the time, late the hour grows, as such it becomes her, greatness does. People, you and me, in total are a fire plug of war. Rainbows bend into our gushes, since color scepters loves the hue of war. Cameramen are handed flowers just within the frame. The lead's blurred face bends toward and out the lower edge of frame and then back in. And if you closely listen and turn the volume up a bit, you could hear faint his thick inhaling. And one practically huffs the daisy in. It's like, okay, we get it. You're pleased and the flower smells nice. It's pleasant. Okay. For a long time, so this, I feel like probably most first books of at least poetry are written many times before they're written. This one shifted its form over years into something that's quite different than what I thought it was like 6-7 years ago when I first thought I had finished this book. And one thing I realized was that a lot of grad school from an MFA here, which brought me to Austin, I had kind of removed the I from the poetry, feeling uncomfortable with it or inadequate. And I realized to really write this book, it was a matter of sort of two projects simultaneously. One was a much more directly anti-capitalist sort of motive taking place, and also the reinsertion of the I, but in a way that wasn't so straightforward, perhaps, as it might seem to be. And so the next few poems are kind of ones that track that process. The first one's called White Lie. Inform Kipling anew is the lore comfort beckons dues with. Dues build on the prior inroads. Cf. The war waged on taillights is purer, being eternal, for its form of truth the secure can love, because how sure a lie cops are. Cops are a white lie made formal. Being white, I was granted naming rights to norms. I was gifted a white sword at birth. The swish it severs fecund air with, I was told to christen justice. I hold the white sword firm up to my neck. I go about my days. I hold it taut right up to my throat as I go about my business at the bank, beckoned politely by the teller, or squeezing produce boldly with my one free hand, then putting it back, or gliding past the traffic stop, solemn, nodding at a podcast, my long sword kept poised aloft. Though my elbow tires, I shall persevere. My hand is steady, impressing my good luck. Apparatus. I was taught to frag then surplus, I prime some flaw to gain with it a forge. I huff a tint, then flex to hustle some hard trust up. I have to come with you once more. A form conjures itself, decides that it is red. For instance, helots are the fleshy part that voids count as their fruit. The accident of flavor merely proves a serf has wished. So wishing isn't cause I fell unkindly, knowing forts hewn from the stooped lean easy. When delay of cause wins an end, I finish glad. I so rest that way. I even marked out the poems. I'm like, these are the poems. This is the order I want to read them in, but it's still hard for me to find them. You know what these? This one is called "In Which the Empire Adores." It's terror. Oh wait, this is another owl poem. So there you go. We had Flaccid Owl. This one's got an owl. Just wait. It's just a few words away. You don't have to wait long. They're always in the first or second line. The terror. It's yesterday's foul. I've eaten the cartoon carcass of a broiled owl, and in it I confess I tasted, if not empire itself, the fruit one thinks to mash into one's turrets. I have come to, if not enjoy, keen castle's rank flavor, its encoding of pittance, how scented its spackle is. See, it's for sure that the qua of wealth is the halo of even the sadder bloods. I myself have confirmed this, and could relate it to you if you push me on it. But rather let us discuss feelings. I have many. My microtensions falter before they can bask in fruition, and unless you're a stupid Tommy Dick, you get that. You intuit a certain purpose within anything repeatable that bears resemblance to what's most dire among us. We took a poll, and the general sense is that she acted insensitively to his hostility, which, yes, was hostile, but she acted insensitively. And also in, it can't be avoided saying, a meek way. She should have done something, right? The effervescence never falters, right, in the earthier temperaments, and I can tell here a certain toil regards us from the effrontery, that brass goat's curatory aura. You can smell it almost, yes? Yeah, it opened last week. There was a gala like Thursday, but otherwise wrapped I were, as if along the arcade where one feels heat's dank hum, almost fondly, being foretold never I'd faltered heavenward. To bask seemed mild upon the butcher's gored-up flank. My name is Chanticleer today. Never am I public. There persists about my placidness a whirl that before a time, too, did swaddle the barrister's gunt once, even, if they nearby passed. Or if, in choosing to pass unlooking, bowed, carp-like, draped as so, a harp within a bespoke jacket, playing to playing, sigh, they wish, one's personal sensitivity toward the poor. A feel of braiding finger pads which they deem enough and good. But being brought athwart forced wonder, ever dulled it, flat as affect for inflection. Having even a need is of course weak and coarse. The broad among us wrestle woe. I did mention I have feelings. This as such is one of them. That account worries internal, all stout-hearted persons. It's a word of encouragement. The route thin blood tracks abroad the marble that you'd flick it off on. But yuck to blood, bile's passé too. I've grown accustomed to releasing, see pigeons hurl off from a long canvas coat, epochs of self-knowledge. I find it, I guess, tedious. The Baroque gelled right to gut warmth, a total drag, especially when conversions beings mean. The revisionist theme, it becomes you, and so it does. Got a few shorter poems, maybe one a little bit longer, but a few shorter poems, starting Fugitiveness and Proclivity. A lot of the last poems that ended up in the book, kind of giving it shape, were these poems that were titles taken directly from some source or another, and often they were these little 2-stanza poems. So that's one of these. The plainness of telling is wet work. Cast later than nearer, time wills tells forward. The abundance of truth is no levy. I admit I harvest precision from love. Lear was precious about rending. That doesn't bud sublimates our trust. Norms used to lure a fig from ripeness. Judging a dark roof's angle. Orge can be softer theorem if a wet cant is taken upon it, further upon a cast air left red. Goethe follow, yellow reason. Nails won't rut in that note I posted, affixed with the torque your litmus had, however gifted. Concordance. It's all one sentence, so might got a little hiccup in there, but I'll try. Concordance. Is the need of words what set the Nate-punched joking Westerly, who, having musty text to import lust with, who, farther conning that isthmus labors, who dressage gets in blunders, trial horse he abets with, dosing particulate heart word, adoring what's dull, because a question bullies most people. But does he care? He has answers prepared for such occasion, that what lopes is a wounded character, and that who rises from the synthetic shrubs, rifle tip ungassing, and looks pleased, must contend with the grasses trounced afoot and find it good, or find it at least fine, that to live is just greed, if greed can ever be just. This will be the last poem I read from it. I worked for a while at doing landscaping, and a lot of it was watering trees, and then a lot of it was spreading mulch around. And if you've ever been around a lot of mulch in the hot sun, you know the sort of steam that rises from it. And it was an image that I always wanted to sort of incorporate in some way. And it ended up being just the title of this last poem I'll read, Mulch Steam. Very one-to-one sort of grace there. The urge to becomes more than greenery. I assent to form its curve toward naming's shapeliness. Listen to before become fungible and prior a priori as posteriori. I suppose you're right, there's wastefulness in watering the ferns at dawn if you don't wake naturally then. Late night becomes light enough. Waste endures of some. Thank you.